this is one of the first times I'm openly speaking about my Palestinian heritage and my Palestinian pain. That's our story as Palestinians, and that's because of colonization.
And now you're Mama Ganuush.
Yeah.
Just as you are.
I'm not begging people to support me. It's an honor to you to support the Palestinian resistance, because if you do, you're freeing yourself from the Israeli apartheid regime that is controlling your unions. Black people in America, they are living in this country in a form of an apartheid, but not. My father said if Palestinians sold their land, which never happened, they would have lived in palaces, not in refugee camps in Gaza, since 1948.
If the colonization didn't happen, if you weren't displaced, how do you imagine your life would have looked like? Thank you so much for coming, Mama Ganuush. Really, it means a lot to me that you're here. I know there's a lot going on with the genocide and losing many family members. So عن جد I appreciate إنه أنت أجيت.
Thank you, Habib. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I would love to hear from you. You're from Palestine, you're from Gaza. What did you hear from your parents about Palestine before colonization?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, Baba, Allah yarhamu, can from Jaffa. He was born in 1932. So at the time of the first Palestinian genocide in 1948, he was 16 years old.
NAKBA?
In NAKBA, yes. He would exclaim Palestine as Jaffa as Lisbon. That's basically the closest thinking what my father would think about, because of the idea that Lisbon is on the water, it has a lot of good fish, a lot of food.
Because you don't know Jaffa, so he wants to give you another space to relate to.
Exactly.
You've never been to Palestine?
No, we're never allowed to. Yeah, I was never allowed to visit even or return to Palestine. Before 1948 was a very urban place. It was a very posh city. It had a cinema, the Al-Hamra cinema, that my dad remembers when the royal family in Egypt used to come to Jaffa for the summer. A city that you go to have good drinks or like go to the movies, go out. It was also more progressive. There was a queer park. My dad used to make fun of it. Yeah. Oh, it was like on a hill. There's a park that used to go look at the beach. And my dad wasn't saying it in a way, it's like, let's kill the queers. I was like, this is a place where queers used to hang out. And like people used to cruise and stuff.
What's in Arabic, the name of the park?
Lahali. I don't know. Lahali means like the flamboyance. Jaffa had bars and had a nightlife, and a lot of people that didn't have access to that used to come to Jaffa to do that. My father, for him, Palestine was just very beautiful. Jaffa was something that whenever he speaks about it, he has this like little tear of his eyes that he just cannot see it anymore or witness it. My mom's version of Gaza was a big city. It was a lot of merchants. It's also a lot of different type of fish. And the beach in Gaza is known to be the best beach, because in Jaffa, it was a port, it was dirtier. But in Gaza, it was like that sort of clean water.
So the competition between Jaffa and Gaza.
Totally, yeah. And people would call like people from Gaza, they're like Southerners, and people from Gaza, they would talk about people from Jaffa. They're like the Northerners with the flamboyant accent, because every city in Palestine has its own accent and dialect. But one thing she remembered is that it wasn't as safe to grow up in the same way my father grew up until he was 16 in Jaffa, because the Israeli occupation started.
What happened to your parents in 1948? And what is the story of leaving home?
Yeah, my dad in 1948 was 16 years old. He witnessed the Israelis sacking basically Jaffa. At that time, it was no Israel. It was basically terrorist gangs that formed the Israeli defense army. They entered Jaffa, they killed my uncle, and they killed two of my uncles. The Israelis at that time, they used to take men from the age of 13 until 60 and shoot them, mass shoot them, assassination style.
Wow.
And that's happened to my uncles. My dad survived because my dad was...
Your dad was with them?
Yeah, my dad is skinnier too.
In the mass shooting?
He hid between the dead bodies.
So
they missed him.
Wow.
They missed him and he hid between the dead bodies. That's how he survived. At that time, his eldest brother, everybody thought he's dead, basically, because he was arrested by the army. As basically Israel still arrests civilians for no reason right now and kill them. The Jordanian army of the time of 1948 told Palestinians to flee. And they're going to basically free Jaffa from all this like hassle. You need to flee Jaffa. We're going to come back in 3 hours. That's what they told them. So my grandmother had the food on the stove, because it's not like the stove that we have these days. It's a stove where it takes like 3 hours to make like summa awshi.
So they knocked on the door, the Jordanian army, and
oh no, they were like announcing that around. People were running around. It's literally like people getting shot on the streets. I could just imagine
during the Zionist colonization.
During the sacking of Jaffa.
Yeah.
And one of the things that my grandma did is that she had some silver. So she put it in like in a room, like a safe room, Ut al-Khazin, where you put like the olive oil and stuff under in a cool place in the house. So she saved the silver and she took our key.
What did she do with the tabakh?
She left it to work because it's 3 hours for her. It's like, we're just going to leave it for 3 hours and come back. You know what I mean?
She left it on the stove.
Yeah, she has like 11 children. So it makes sense that she's thinking about feeding her children afterwards. That's how people were like unaware that this is going to, all of the shit is going to happen to them. All of that trauma is going to happen to them. They went through 2 different deportations. They went to trucks that were, the Jordanian army put them on trucks and then basically like dropped them off in like the wilderness, the Palestinians, and then also Israelis packed Palestinians, citizens in buses forcefully.
Wow.
To remove them from Jaffa.
When they threw them on the street, what did they?
Ba'at aratikum, like your lands are gone or your lands were sold. So they basically like
they fooled them.
They fooled them, yes. The
Jordanian army fooled them.
Yeah, there's a reason why Abdullah the king was killed in Jerusalem in like after a few years. At that time, he's a Jordanian king because of his being a traitor. He was called Abdullah the traitor.
Wow.
Because he's the one who basically did the deal with Israeli forces, the Britain, to basically give up on Jaffa and dismantle the Palestinian resistance in order to get power over Jerusalem and the West Bank, which he did until 1956. Israelis took it back from the Jordanian royal family.
It's all power games.
It's all power games, and it's just.
والشعب الفلسطيني اللي بياكلها.
It's like levels of colonization.
Oh yeah.
British, Israeli, Jordanian, Palestinian. It's like whoop, 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 whoop. Yeah. It goes down to them.
Sorry, but she couldn't come back at all.
No, she didn't.
She never came back.
She never came back. She walked to Ramle, and then she walked to Gaza. She walked with children. And Ramle is a 30, 40 kilometers away from Jaffa city. And at Ramle, my father was detained, again, by the Israelis. He was able to escape. His 3 cousins, they were in their teens. They were taken by the Israeli army and also shot. In front of their mother, and their mother had to carry them in a carriage to bury them. But my father was able to escape that also massacre.
He became a refugee in Gaza.
Yeah, he became a refugee. After all these massacres, the people that stayed somehow survived and stayed. They were a minority of Palestinians. They were the people that were displaced into different cities.
Did he share about the massacres, how he survived the massacres?
Yeah, he would always speak about the survival. He would speak about how he ran or he jumped or he did that, and how there was ships coming to Jaffa that were taking a lot of Palestinians, kind of forced deportation to Al-Antara al-Sharqiyya, which is an area in Egypt, and in Haifa to push people to Lebanon and Syria. But he doesn't talk about details of his loss. It's very hard. Or his torture, because he was tortured by the Israelis, and he was also tortured by the Nasser regime. He was arrested by Nasser because he was opposing some of the atrocities the Egyptian government was doing to Palestinians, basically, in Gaza. And he was also arrested by the Israeli occupying forces for like some other other stuff that he was doing that he never shared with us a lot of details.
He never shared?
No, because it was so traumatizing for him. Like, that was very traumatizing for him. It's
I
like
can
triggers
imagine.
his PTSD. But it was all civil disobedience. And then my dad had told me that he remembers like Polish and like European people speaking like foreign tongues coming in trucks basically into Jaffa at that time.
How did your parents get out of Palestine?
Yeah, my mom and dad got married in 1966, 1 year before the second genocide of the Palestinians, which we call the NAKBA. And what the Israelis are very proud of. They're very proud of the genocide in 1967. But my dad and my mom, after their marriage, my dad was basically ruined as a person at that moment. And he was a survivor, though. He built a full career out of all of these ruins. I don't know how he did that. He wanted to be a doctor because there was a Mustashfa Dajani. It was like a hospital for the Dajani family in Jaffa. It was very famous and it was close to where they lived. So my father always wanted to be a doctor. He ended up counting milk for the UNRWA, for the UN, and then doing all these different jobs, basically to take care of his family and survive.
That's how colonization changed his life.
Yeah, completely destroyed it. In addition to somebody that has obviously a lot of PTSD. He did a good job, I guess, with us, but we all have PTSD, traumas, and anxiety. We inherited so much trauma from my dad.
Transgenerational trauma.
Oh yeah, that's so real. Trauma of being unhoused. I have this fear of being unhoused my entire life, although we lived in Egypt in a home. I always felt like I would be unhoused. And that's something I grew up with because of my father's and my mom also displacement. So my mom was displaced 2 times. In 1947, and 1-year-old, she was run away from the Israeli killings and massacres and the genocide to Gaza. And then in 1956, there was a war with Israel, the UK, and France attacked Egypt and basically also sort of attacked Gaza. So my mom had to become displaced into Cairo to live in this small room with a lot of different people as a refugee. And then in 1966, she was out. In 1967, my grandfather, her father, and his brother were doing a Fajr prayer in Gaza. When the Israelis sniped him, they killed him in his head. They gave him a shot in his head. And it's very dramatic for my mom because she wasn't even there, but my uncle, who basically had to collect his brains off the streets, said that they were not allowed to do that for 6 days because Israelis put a curfew. So Palestinians are not able to even bury their dead.
Wow. So he stayed for 6 days, his dead body?
On the street. And he was a foreman, he was like Mukhtar, and he was like an elder in his family, somebody that we go to solve problems, somebody very respected in the community. He was kind of the head of the union at that time. Wow. And then...
While you're talking, I'm feeling, my heart is beating fast. How are you feeling while you're sharing this story? I'm sure that you shared it maybe many times and you heard a lot. How is it now? It
feels empowering actually to say it right now because I'm not just honoring my family, but also this is one of the first times I'm openly speaking about my Palestinian heritage and my Palestinian pain since I moved to America. Wow. Because it's really hard to be Palestinian in America. It's like coming out again, being Palestinian, because of the amount of anti-Palestinian racism and the rhetoric that the Zionists have in this country about us and about our stories. So, but also I feel really sad because it's still happening. This is what happened to Palestinians in Jaffa, if they even recognize that. But I mean, it's just, for me, it's very sad and extremely profound that we're still seeing this right now. It also feels like the pain in my roots, because now as an adult, I could imagine that happening. Like as a child, I don't think I imagined that, but now, I feel like it's just pain. It's profound pain. It's like in my guts. I feel like it's deep in my cells. There's so much pain. I feel like the pain of my grandfather being killed. I feel the pain of my dad's witnessing killings. I feel the pain of my grandmother walking with children, like my mom being a refugee 3 times.
So all the stories that you've heard that were transmitted through their storytelling to you, now you're seeing them embodied and you're seeing them happening real time during this genocide.
Yeah, I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing it happen to my family. So the people who survived from Jaffa, lived in Gaza, in Muaskar al-Maghazi, Muaskar al-Brij, which is basically where most of the people from Jaffa that were displaced in 1948 lived and stayed until for 75 years in the same Muaskar, in the same basically Mukhayyam, in the same camps, refugee camps. These cousins of mine right now were carpet bombed on Christmas Eve.
Oh my God.
And I lost a lot of them under the bombardment. And some of them were assassinated by the IDF soldier. The same story that they did to my father's siblings happened to my cousin in front of his family in an Anan building. Oof. So that happened again.
Wow.
Again, they did the same thing again. And this time there was an eyewitness saying that they were singing. The IDF soldiers were singing when they're doing this. So it's like, for me, it's not like something that stops. It's something that we're reliving it right now. I'm literally witnessing what my father witnessed in 1948 and my family witnessed in 1967 and 1956.
How exhausting is this?
It's so exhausting.
It's not ending. And from one generation to another, it's a lot that you're living. My deep condolences to all your losses. My heartfelt wishes for you that may you be protected and soothed during this very tough. ما في كلمات عن جد توصف.
Thank you.
You know, this process you're going through, all of you, people in Gaza, and also people in Palestinians outside of Gaza, outside of Palestine, witnessing. There are many different levels of painful witnessing. حتى Arab, I'm Lebanese, I'm not Palestinian, and still,
you are.
You know what? I'm Palestinian at heart too.
For me, you are.
And still witnessing that brings also the Israeli invasions, that the experiences that I lived through, to have the same perpetrators, seeing them doing this over and over, it's extremely, extremely painful. I read something someone wrote, مجروح مع انك ما انصبت، روحك عم تطلع مع انك ما متت.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel witnessing this genocide.
Yeah.
And the genocide is happening because of this 75 years occupation and colonization and oppression that have been happening. So I want to check in with you first, just to take a breath, because I know it's a lot to share and to express. Yeah. And I'm here with you, come in, supporting you.
Thank you. Yeah. You always think that it's okay to say these stories, but your body feels it.
Yeah, that's why I want to take a moment to just check in with your body.
And you know, Kholoud, it's funny because it's your body feels it every time it happens to also other people. Mm-hmm. So when the Black community in the US have been witnessing also years and years of basically oppression, I feel it in my body. Like I feel their pain. Like I feel the pain of Haitians, I feel the pain of Armenians. I feel their pain. People don't understand that we all feel that pain because we have witnessed it. Especially Black people in America. They are living in this country in a form of an apartheid, but not. Like the system is institutionally pushing them down. And for me...
An invisible way, an invisible apartheid.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a feeling when Palestine is free, that's gonna reverberate throughout the whole world, inshallah.
Yeah, I hope so. And I feel like a lot of forces, the Israeli apartheid forces the US politics to be conservative and pro-genocide in a local level. Israeli state is very racist. They have been sterilizing Black Jewish women. They had rallies against Sudanese people. When Southern Sudan acknowledged Israel, which was a big problem, they had rallies against Black people in Israel. So what I mean by that is like, these are the people that are influencing the politics of this country to continue to be racist.
I think they influence each other. Like the fact that there's a model of colonization here in the US, it kind of gives permission to...
Correct.
Like colonization elsewhere and find it like, normal.
Yeah, and police aggression, cop aggression, is something that the IDF taught people here how to treat Black people, their own people.
So IDF trained or IOF trained cops.
The cops in the US, there's a lot of common training between them.
I want to ask about how Palestine lives inside of you? If it is a space,
Yeah.
how does it look like?
If you think about the senses, Palestine for me would smell like zaatar, orange flowers, because of the flower. The orange flowers are my favorite flowers of my dad, and he loves oranges because of Yafa. I smell Palestine as sabun nabilsi. It's like
Nablus soap.
Nablus soap. I feel like walking in Palestine would be smelling jasmine, oranges, zaatar.
So that's Palestine inside of you.
It is, yes.
We're gonna honor this
Yeah.
and pause for a second to bring tea.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, zaatar.
Oh my God, thank you so much. Yeah, that's so sweet. Thank
You said yasmin,
Yeah.
بردقان وزعتر وهولي الفلاجين من بيروت
Oh wow, that's so bougie. Yeah.
والصينية كمان.
Oh my God.
بتعرف نحن هون بأمريكا لا كل شيء نتمسك فيه إنه هاي الصينية وهاي الكباية من بيروت. بتعرف الزعتر كمان من ضيعتنا.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, Habibi. Shukran. Thank you. Yeah, this is really cool.
بما إنه أنت بذكرك بفلسطين.
In school, my mom used to make zaatar with zait sandwiches, and that was the only one in Cairo, because I grew up in Cairo, that would have zaatar and zait sandwich, which was really weird.
Oh, really?
But I used to like it.
Oh, in Lebanon, everyone took zaatar وزيت, but I hated it a little bit because it would drip in the plastic wrap.
Yeah. This is perfect, Habibi. Shukran. Thank you, Habibi.
بس مش عم تنهار, مش عم تقول
Oh no, it's so good. Because it's really good. It's really good. كمان مخصوم بزيت. You're very generous with the zait. It's so nice. Yeah, in America. No. I mean, like in America, because we don't have a lot of our own olive oil, we're very stingy. But when you go back home, you pour a lot of zait. But now there's so much olive oil in there, so it's very yummy.
For a free Palestine.
Yeah, free Palestine, free Lebanon too. Yeah.
Do you feel also the orange peels? It's dried and...
Yeah, you did that? That is so sweet.
Danielle did it.
Oh my God, that is so thoughtful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome, of course. أهلا وسهلا. How is your relationship with your current space هلا هي وفلسطين جوا?
Yeah.
How is your relationship with people around you? I assume most of people are not Palestinians around you. And that you're mostly the only Palestinian in the room بشكل عام in the States. And not only Palestinian, بس إنه كمان queer and drag artist.
Yeah.
So that's really like a difficult intersectionality to be at. How is it to be all of that and be in this space?
Yeah, I grew up very Muslim. Yeah, I used to teach kids tilawa.
Wallah.
I used to teach kids Quran.
Really?
Yeah. I'm really good at this. Yeah.
Wow. قد إيه كان عمرك وقتها؟
I was in my teens. I was like, I used to teach kids Quran. So I had a very religious upbringing too. Growing up, I never felt mirrored. I never felt that anyone is like me. And it was very lonely. And I tried. The queer part, I was in conversion therapy for 12 years. بمصر in Egypt. And I thought I would try to fit in the norm, or I tried to hide my Palestinian identity because there's a lot of racism against Palestinians in Egypt growing up and classism. But I was really struggling to find my identity. I don't find anyone who mirrors me. I want community. I want people to look at me and be like them. Like, I'm not Egyptian. I'm not Palestinian, like from Palestine. My parents are refugees. I speak a mixed dialect between Egyptian dialect and Palestinian dialect. My food is different at home. Like, I have African heritage too. It makes things very confusing.
Your grandmother is Sudanese.
Yeah, Sudanese. You don't feel like you're mirrored at all.
That's hard.
But after I became an openly queer person, an openly drag artist, an openly Palestinian activist, because being Palestinian was very scary for me to say that I am Palestinian. I felt seen. And that's very important to me. I don't need to feel mirrored. I really want to be seen. And I feel like being seen made me feel extremely empowered. So now realize how much my trauma and my cross identity and my heritage and my ancestors are very powerful and extremely important in shaping up my identity. And when I felt seen, I realized that I actually could see others too, and be able to identify what does community looks like, and how do I engage in this community. So I feel finally I'm seen.
Mabruk.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's so important to be seen.
It's very empowering too, because at this point you're like, yes, you see me, this is me. I don't have to confine in anything that you think I should be confined in. Because I am me.
And now you're Mama Ganuush.
Yeah.
Just as you are Mama Ganuush. من وين هالاسم? From where?
Oh yeah.
It's Baba Ganuush. يعني we could have eaten Baba Ganuush and have...
Yeah, I really wanted to claim it before Israelis claim it. Like, I was really worried. Some Israeli drag queen who's from Poland or France who like went to like claim their whatever rights in Israel came back and was like, oh, my name is now Mama Ganuush. I really wanted to claim my own name. Like, so that's one of the reasons I was like, I'm going to choose a dish that I like and I'm going to just mess with it. Yeah. The other thing is also it's a satire about eggplants. Because, you know, eggplants, dicks, penises, there's a lot of patriarchy around penises and dicks, even in the queer community, the gay community. I consider myself queer, I consider myself trans, I consider myself like fluid. I don't identify as gay. And that's what I wanted to break down, the patriarchy. I was like, I'm going to feminize that. So this is like... Mama, not Baba. Yeah, so...
I'm going to debate with you if Baba Ganuush is Lebanese. But I'll keep it for another episode. No, I'm joking. I don't know if it's Lebanese or what. We're all one land, yani. You know, colonizers divided us, but probably it came up from the same place. When you hear the word home, what is it that comes up first for you?
It's fear. I feel it in my feet. I feel like I don't have a home. I never felt I have home. As a Palestinian. And that's trauma I don't think would ever be resolved. It's not a physical space, it's me. So I'm trying to be comfortable in my home. My home is my body. And my own dignity, that's home to me. Like, to respect the place I'm in is my body. But to have a home, that's something that I never felt I have one. Even growing up in Cairo, we were always we're not even second-class citizens. We're refugees living in Egypt. I came here as unhoused. I'm Palestinian American.
You were unhoused here?
Oh, yeah. I came here as unhoused. I came as a refugee too.
A queer activist? Asylum seeker?
Oh, yeah. I came here. I did a lot of activism work. I used to report on violations for police brutality against queer folks in Egypt. Okay. So that's one of the things that got me in a lot of danger. So that's one of the reasons I had to leave. And coming here, I never wanted to be in America. This is like Zionism Central. This is where people dehumanize me all the time, like everybody. This is the country that gives Israel money to genocide my people. And I had to, because that's the place I had to end up in. So for me, I never felt safe. I never felt it's home to me.
What is colonization for you? How is it manifested inside of you? So I'm not talking about colonization that is, you know, on land, on bodies, on items, on hummus, on our Arab songs. I'm talking about what you internalized.
Colonization for me is like totalitarianism, in a way that what the Nazis did to the Jewish folks and a lot of people in Auschwitz, where they oppressed them so hard that they lost their belief that needs to be treated as humans. And
so for you?
For me, it manifests itself by, I feel like I don't deserve space. I am very apologetic about existing in a space. I'm very apologetic about my needs as a human being. The other thing also that colonization did to me is extreme anxiety. It's like in the roots, you don't feel settled. You don't feel home. I feel like I'm on survival mode the entire time. And the last thing that I'm thinking about colonization is that I have to explain myself, which is something that you don't do if you're not colonized and completely, like your story even is not acknowledged. Your presence doesn't acknowledge. Zionism says that people went to, like European gangs basically and settlers came to Palestine in 1948. There was no one there. He doesn't even say that my family existed, thousands of years of history and civilization.
And then you have to explain and prove that you did exist back then.
It's very devastating for me that people believe in a biblical story that did not exist in our current modern life and have no relationship with what's going on right now, to basically someone who actually exists and have family who'd killed and people were displaced, that you don't believe that I existed. So
you're not only not mirrored, but you're even invalidated in your truth.
Yes. And it's an international propaganda. There's a lot of ways of like just removing our humanity as Palestinians.
And that's so psychologically harmful.
Yes.
Psychologically and socially on all levels.
Yes.
To be gaslit the whole time, to be rejected in your story and in who you are, in your truth.
You're believing in a biblical myth about like the end of the world and like doomsday cults basically. And that's why that justifies the killing of my people. But I don't believe in me telling you that my father was 16 years old, displaced in Jaffa, and he had this life. Like, why do I have to even to explain that Jaffa exists? Why do I have to explain that all the time? And now I feel like it's the story of Palestinians. We have to explain our existence and our story and our history all the time. And that's part of what colonization does to you. That instead of you surviving and thriving and enjoying your day and like hooking up on sniffies or doing something, you're like have to go to protests and explain to people that you're existing. That's our story as Palestinians, and that's because of colonization.
Yeah. The normal heke life that people live, that's such a privilege to you and to so many Palestinians, or most Palestinians.
Oh yeah.
Mama Ganuush, what is a song that would represent your relationship with Palestine?
The Queen, جوليا بطرس.
أيوة.
yeah.
أي واحدة.
الحق سلاحي وأقاوم.
عليهم. Let's put it.
Yeah.
بحطها ولا بحافظها؟
أنا حافظها بس صوتي كتير وحش. That's why I'm a drag queen.
بنحب صوتك كيف ما أنت. مش أنت فلسطيني؟
Yeah.
بنحب صوتك.
Oh yeah.
يلا.
I mean there is a verse that she says, عدوك يا وطن انتحر عليك الكون ما قدر قاوم شعب جنون الريح تحدى الخوف والخطر.
عدوك يا وطن انتحر عليك الكون ما قدر قاوم شعب جنون الريح تحدى الخوف والخطر.
ارحلونا ونبقى والأرض لنا ستبقى ها نحن اليوم أقوى في كل الملاحم.
ملاحم.
يرحلونا ونبقى والأرض لنا ستبقى ها نحن اليوم أقوى في كل الملاحم.
And then she says, بيتي هنا أرضي هنا البحر النهر النهر البحر
بيتي هنا أرضي هنا بحر السهل النهر لنا وكيف بوجه النار تسالم.
سأقاوم. It's just about the Palestinian resistance. I love this song because it's actually, I'm very proud of my Palestinians. I'm so proud to be Palestinian. There was this woman on Al Jazeera, they were taking a video of her and she was like, don't photograph me anymore. I don't need you. Like, I don't need you. I have my body, my hand, and my God. My father said, If Palestinians sold their land, which never happened, they would have lived in palaces, not in refugee camps in Gaza, since 1948. My cousin in Maghazi camp is not leaving. They've been carpet bombing the camp, he's not leaving. Like, my family this is true resistance. I was like, it's just so empowering that you have that heritage. Like, we're not victims, we are heroes.
Palestinians are taking the whole world to another era.
Yeah.
Like this movement.
And this song is about this. So this song is about, like, I have the just, and I don't give a shit, basically. I'm gonna just resist. All of these people are resisting. Like, the reason why Israel just is killing these people is because they just cannot get rid of our cause, because we have the just. Right. We have thousands of years of civilization and roots into this land.
How do you resist colonization inside of you? The one that we're talking about. Or have you ever thought about resisting it?
Resisting colonization for me is changing the narrative that I was forced to learn. A complete human being. I'm a fabulous drag artist.
You are!
Yeah.
I've seen you come in.
I'm queer. Interesting. Queer people are way more interesting. I deserve to exist. I deserve to have opinions. I deserve to just walk in the street. Nobody have to, like, ask me questions. And I deserve not to have the burden that I have to explain myself to people all the time.
So you do self-talk, like you remind yourself that you deserve.
Yeah, and the way I remind myself that I deserve this is by the power of my people. Like, Palestinian resistance is an honor for people to support. That's what I realized. I'm not begging people to support me. It's an honor to you to support the Palestinian resistance, because if you do, you're freeing yourself from the Israeli apartheid regime that is controlling your unions, controlling your ability to unionize, controlling your ability to boycott a foreign country's products in your own country. Like, in the US, you're allowed to burn the American flag, but not the Israeli flag. That's how much power Israel has over this country. It's an honor to join me and my people. Like, being Palestinian with all this trauma, for me, is incredibly empowering, because it's a resemblance of liberation. It's like you're focusing what people need to do to feel liberated. And if you're able to free Palestine from the Israeli apartheid, you mean you're dismantling these conservative ideologies and freeing even people that of a Jewish faith of the guilt that what's happening in Israel is in their name. You're not just freeing yourself.
You're freeing everyone.
You're freeing everyone.
And even if the person was privileged, thinking that it is Israel and Palestinians never existed and all of that, but this is also part of mental colonization.
Yeah, I agree.
Yani, it doesn't have to be that the person is impacted by colonization as in being oppressed.
Yeah.
But even oppressors are. Like, I even sometimes think like Zionists are colonized, because to be disconnected that much from humanity, what a waste of life.
Yeah.
That's such a mental and colonization in the heart. And at least we are free in our hearts, even though we're not free in other ways.
On that note, yes, I was victimized. Yes, my family has been displaced, and I've been witnessing genocide, and I'm still witnessing it with my own people, like literally and intellectually. But I am free.
And you have empathy and you have compassion and you are connected to your humanity, so
yes.
You are free.
And I don't think from fear. I think from liberation and freedom. So when you think out of fear, this is what most Zionists at the moment unfortunately are. Whether they're worried about their lobbyists, they're worried about this, they're worried about that. Nobody, no one owns my narrative. I own my own narrative. And I think out of love, I think about who I am. And honestly, I know it sounds laughable, but I have compassion to them. And it's not because I'm like the victim who doesn't have anything to do. No, I'm actually free. I'm somebody who knows what it means to be oppressed, ideologically and mentally, and how to be free.
Habibi, so compassionate.
Yeah.
It's more about you and your level of هيك healing and to be able to be compassionate.
Palestine frees you.
Yeah.
It really frees you because it puts you in front of your indoctrined ideas and challenges you as a human being to overcome your cognitive dissonance by looking at Palestinians are not human enough for you, or black people or brown people, whatever it is. Like that narrative changes for you. And this is where you become really free. Yes, I have compassion for somebody who's racist, but also my priority is the safety of the people who are vulnerable.
Of course.
It's just laughable to me that people would think that if you're anti-Zionist, you're anti-Semitic, because the idea of anti-Semitic is like, oh my God, do I like hate my best friends?
Jewish people are being accused of being anti-Semitic if they are against the Israeli apartheid and the Israeli colonization.
I was in a protest in San Francisco in the Castro with a Holocaust survivor in her 80s on a wheelchair that's protesting the ceasefire and saying not in my name. And some Zionist kid came to her and told her you're a Nazi. And she had a moment of actually sort of almost like a panic attack when he told her that. Wow. And she told him, I survived the Holocaust. You should not call me a Nazi. And then he was like, oh, Hitler missed you. That's happened in a protest in San Francisco by a gay, cis, white, Jewish, unfortunately Zionist, to a Jewish elder in a protest. Like, what I mean by that is like Zionists are harming Jewish community. Literally. You're going to a Jewish elder who you built your entire propaganda on saving them and telling them that. It's very scary, the amount of hate. It's like watching Nazi youth. It's so scary for me. I'm actually scared for Palestinians, but I'm also scared for my Jewish community in San Francisco. Also, like Zionism is racism, and it's just the new fascist, basically, neo-Zionism. And it's just terrifying to me that we're just letting it thrive in this country across all levels of our community.
What is an object that reminds you of Palestine?
I have two objects.
Two?
Yes, yeah. هاي الحطة الكوفية. It was given to me by Nabila Mango. She was a Palestinian woman who's the mayor of the San Francisco Palestinians in the Bay Area. She was born in 1944 in Jaffa. She passed away a few months ago. She is the person who saved my life, but also reminded me of what does it mean to be a Palestinian. She lived her entire life in activism. She was extremely generous and extremely kind.
I heard a lot about her.
Yeah, Allah yarhamha. She's like a legend. She's my institution. She's my chosen mom.
So she gave you this kufiya?
That's her kufiya on my first protest.
Her kufiya?
Her kufiya. So my first protest when the genocide amped up, because it never stopped really. She was in deathbed. She had stage 4 cancer for years, and she can't do these anymore. She was like, I'm just going to watch Al Jazeera and figure out what's going on. I was like, Nabila, don't do this. She was like, did you read The Intercept? Allah yarhamha. Wow. But she gave me that.
How hard it is that she died during the genocide.
It's hard because she really, her focus and activism is making sure that children don't forget Palestine. And to do that is through singing and culture or embroidery. She wants to make sure that, like cookbooks, making sure that we're preserving our Palestinian heritage. And she was really sad because children are her life. She loves children, she teaches children, she helps children. And seeing children, Palestinian children, dying was so traumatic for her. And Nabila told me that she cannot do that protest, but she gave me her kufiya. And then when she passed away, and a few weeks into the genocide, I buried her with my Palestinian flag. She was buried with it. I put it with her in her grave.
Wow.
And that's for me. She was buried in Pleasanton, where one of the people that's a Zionist that I know, who used to be a friend of my partner, their grandfather is a Mayflower American, and he's buried in Jerusalem, where Nabila, that comes from the Mango family that's like thousands of years, was buried in Pleasanton. But I buried her with the Palestinian flag. She was not allowed to be buried in Palestine because Palestinians are not allowed to be buried in Palestine. But she told me, I don't think it's going to be free by my lifetime. And she was on her deathbed. Yeah, she was like, I'm dying. I don't know what's going to happen to... I did everything I could do. However, Nabila's history of almost 1944 all the way until 2023, her life is basically resistance her entire life. That makes me like, this is what the story of Palestinians are. That's how much powerful we are. That we die thinking about Palestine. Like, we don't just die not forgetting our story. We die teaching people our story, and our death itself, it's by itself a story of our resistance.
Yeah. Palestine is with you and Nabila is with you.
Yeah, Nabila is with me in every protest.
Wow.
In every protest, in every meeting, in every drag show now I wear this over my head because everything I do is for Palestine right now. This is Nabila's with me.
I want to ask about the second object.
We're queer, we're trans, no peace on stolen land. We're trans, no peace on stolen land. We're queer, we're trans, no peace on stolen land. Yes, that's my favorite.
So what does the megaphone mean to you?
In Jewish tradition, there is like a horn that they use in celebration. I forgot the name of it, actually. I'm so sorry.
في حدا Jewish هون؟
A shofar? Shofar?
Shofar.
Yeah. One of my first protests for Palestine, I saw Jewish people coming with a shofar and doing prayers. And I was like, for Palestine. And I was like, this is incredible. Like an announcement of something massive that's happening. So I felt like when you mobilize the masses, I feel like this is my own horn.
So it's kind of like healing between yani, Palestinian cause and the Jewish cause.
Yes. And the last thing is my anger. So I loved standing up in the middle of the Castro, saying out loud, Zionist gays, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. And then also pink washing is real. Like, I am a queer Palestinian who was a drag artist that is disabled, and I'm walking in the street protesting, and I'm protesting gays and queers who are Zionists by name. So I feel like that megaphone is my voice.
Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
If the colonization didn't happen, if you weren't displaced, how do you imagine your life would have looked like?
Yeah.
Sorry if it's a...
No, it's such a beautiful thing. I don't think I would ever leave Jaffa. That sounds so awesome.
You wouldn't have left Jaffa.
No, I would never have left Jaffa. Maybe I would be in a theater because I always wanted to study theater, and I wanted to be, I could be a theater actor. The reason why I didn't study theater is because growing up as Palestinian refugees, you have to go to like a job that would get you a job, like an education that gives you a job that is stable, that you could get your residency. If I don't have to worry about all of this, I'll be a theater director in Jaffa.
عم بتكزر ببارك الملاحق.
Oh yeah, كسر ببارك الملاحق. I'm like basically cruising all these like beautiful Palestinian men and others that come, I guess, to Malahi. But I also have like, probably will have like a little villa where I could live with my partner. And maybe I'll be married to this like Palestinian guy who smells like Sabun Nabilsi, like Nabilsi Shahid. And I really think sometimes in a funny way that I might not have MS. Like all this trauma that happened to my genes, I don't really know. It stresses you out so much.
Yeah.
I'll have like stupid problems. Like, should I go to Gaza for like the summer on the beach, or should I go to Haifa? Haifa is a little cooler on the beach. Where should I go to like swim? Like problems people in Connecticut would have. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Not this, not that, what I'm in right now. But I feel like I'll be in Palestine, I'll be in Jaffa, probably in an old house. It's like of Hajar Utsi, like Jerusalem stones. Maybe I'll have a gay mosque. Because I'm sure like colonization did a lot of suppression for ideologies and horrible things to religion. I'll have a Jewish partner who's Lebanese. who happened to like move to Jaffa, you know, and just chill.
Right.
And I'd be like having fights with him about how like traditional about like kosher he is, for example, and I want to eat my shit. Maybe my fight would be like against gentrification of like, you know, the old Palestinian city, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That might be like
By
my
other
cause.
Palestinian people.
Yeah. My cause of like people moving, like, you know, from
Lebanese.
Syria or Lebanese people moving to the city, not really surviving. Like, it would be a very different vibe.
And my last question, do you see yourself returning to Palestine and having a free Palestine soon in our lifetime? Do you see it? Do you feel it?
I feel like the Israeli apartheid state will be, this is the start of the end, with American public waking up against the Israeli apartheid. This is the start of the end. Because this is the reason why the apartheid state exists, is because of the US.
And the resistance in Palestine and people.
The resistance in Palestine is the reason why people are waking up here. So yes, it's very interconnected and extremely important. But also the resistance of American Jews, which is a very important sect of people that are showing up for Palestinians so hard, but also the waking up of the American public. It's something that will dismantle that apartheid. I feel like at my lifetime, I'll be back to a free Palestine, to a one state that have equal rights, have liberties, have reparation and recognition for Palestinians, indigenous people, and full freedom and access to everything else, and dismantling the Israeli apartheid state. I really don't care whether it's called Palestine or not, because it is called Palestine. It has been Palestine. Now it's called Israel. Maybe after years of dismantling the apartheid state, there would be like a civil society that's equal rights, where people would go back and say like, let's call this Palestine. You know, I don't actually, for the time being, what's important to me is freeing Palestinian, having equal rights, full reparation, recognition of our pain, and reparation for our suffering. And full access to a democratic system and a civil society where people could exist together, and healing could start.
For free Palestine, what is the first thing you imagine happening that's like, oh, that's a free Palestine?
Complete dismantlement of this birthright system, removing all the citizenship that they gave unlawfully to just Europeans and other people, removing all settlements and returning all the settlers to their own European countries. For people who are Israelis, who are born and raised in Israel, or people who are living in Israel for generations, they are part of a society that needs to recognize and start reparations to the Palestinians, and having full access and a civil community.
And if you see an image, which is a video for 10 seconds, something happening. For example, when the Israeli occupation withdrew from southern Lebanon, the image that I always remember is the hands of the detainees, the political detainees in prison, Khiyam prison, getting out of the bars, and people knocking on their doors and trying to set them free. That's an image of liberation. For you, what do you imagine an image of liberation is?
I imagine me and my entire family and the ancestors of the people who have died are standing in front of our house in Jaffa, given our keys, and giving a lot of recognition to our rights, but also opportunity to rebuild and have an expansion for this family that has been displaced. I see us at my father's house in Jaffa. That's what a free Palestine means for me, that I drive to. Like, I drive to Jaffa from Cairo. I don't have any things to stop me across the board go to Jaffa. No checkpoints, no terrorizing IDF soldiers, no crazy like colonizing like settlers like trying to kill me and like doing
Palestinians
this.
are just walking freely and
Palestinian children are safe and free, and I have that. And the first thing I would do with this is dedicate my shortage of that to treat PTSD that children of Palestinians have suffered this entire time.
I'll be with you.
Yes. That's how I think about a free Palestine.
Inshallah, free Palestine very soon in our lifetime. Mama Ganuush, thank you so much.
Thank you
for coming and sharing your pieces of heart and your stories.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me. And the zaatar and everything else.
أكيد. أهلا وسهلا.
أهلا بك. Yeah, thank you.
Much love.
No peace on stolen land. We're queer, we're trans. No peace on stolen land.